Okay, we'll call the November Planning and Zoning meeting to order. The meeting properly announced.
Yes, it was.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Let the record show that all members are present. One member via Zoom, John Dolzal. Need a motion to approve the agenda. Jay, second by Randy. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Are there any changes to the October 4th meeting minutes? Seeing none, those minutes are approved. Public participation as we get to it. Correspondence. I have one correspondence letter to the Planning and Zoning Committee members. In the previous Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, the next meeting time was changed without asking any of the committee members. We believe that any time change should be done with a consensus of the members during the meeting. The new meeting time of 3 p.m. creates a barrier for the general working public by reducing or preventing their ability for in-person attendance and participation, or the ability to Zoom into the meeting due to their employment responsibilities and requirements. Barriers like this should not exist and should be removed when possible. We are requesting that the committee be consulted and consensus reached during the meeting as to what time this works for them. Please consider all public input, including our letter that is read at the beginning of the meeting versus during the agenda item set for the next meeting date. We would like Planning and Zoning Committee meeting time to be 6 p.m. The suggested time would reduce or even remove barriers for public attendance and participation. Thank you, Mark and Nancy Beta. Unfinished business, none. We're open for the public hearings. Dusty.
The first application is for Devin Lee Daniel and Renee Wannert. This is a rezone request for a portion of a parcel, 0.4 acres from R1 single family residential to B1 rural business district on property located in the northeast, northwest quarter, northwest quarter, being lot 1 is CSM 5824, section 10, township 14 north, range 6 east, parcel 8-308-10, town of Del Prairie. The address is 1000 Gem Court. I did receive a little correspondence. The town of Del Prairie did not object to the request. And that was at their October 10th meeting. I also received correspondence from Frank and Michelle Cryer, to whom it may concern. We lived in Del Prairie at this address since 2005, and that's 1017 Pinecrest Ave. We have no issues or concerns at all with Devin Daniel at 1000 Gem Court, which is 4 houses down from our house, to use this property for his woodworking shop. Out here in this neighborhood, we hear guns going off daily and chainsaws running daily in this area, and everyone is respected here in our neighborhood with noise and what homeowners decide what they are doing on their properties. This is good for our neighborhood in a positive way. Let's welcome this here and in our county and township. I did receive 2 calls from the same person. The first time he called, he was opposed to it, and that's Bill Fisher. He did call back, I believe it was yesterday, and said they now have no objection to it.
Okay.
And I believe that was all the correspondence I have.
Okay. Would the requester like to explain the request? Turn on the microphone.
All right, can everybody hear me? Yeah, so I currently run a custom cabinetry woodworking business. Me and my fiance Renee recently purchased this property last September in 2022, and it had a pretty decent sized shop on it, 4,000 square feet. I was currently renting a shop in Black Earth, so I moved into this one, was running my business, and then I talked with Dustin and realized I need to get it rezoned, so that's why I applied for this application. And then Renee is also going to start a dog daycare, dog boarding business too in that other little section. If you look on the map, that smaller section to the north side of the property, that one there is going to be hers.
Okay.
Oh.
Any questions from committee members? Jody?
So I guess I'd like the footprint maybe more explained. So the dog sitting is not in this, correct? But
It-
that would also be business? Or not?
Are you talking about the picture right here?
Yeah,
That, can you go to the picture that shows like the whole property kind of, the other one? That one there. So on the south side, the bottom one, that's my shop, so it just includes the driveway there from the road up to the shop. And then on the north side of the property would be Renee's area with half of that building's the other half's just a garage, just store the truck in there. And then around it's just for some fencing and stuff for the dogs to run around in.
okay, so I guess I was confused because I thought we were just talking, so those two together
Are the, yes,
is
correct.
the acreage that you're requesting?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from committee members? Okay. Any questions from anybody else? Phil?
Can I turn the microphone on, please?
Yes, that is the lot
Speak
line.
into a microphone, Phil.
Typically, lot lines don't go through the middle of a building, so I guess I'm somewhat confused of what's going on there. I mean, I realize that's not part of this petition, but can somebody explain?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The red line or the red line that you makes the trapezoid or whatever through the middle of that building is not the property line. The thin red line on the outside is the property line. The thicker red line is the proposed area to be rezoned.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there anyone else here who would like to speak in favor of this project? Is there anyone who would like to speak against this rezone? Hearing none, it's up to the committee. Jay, motion to approve? Second, Jody? Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote?
Matt Griner,
Yes.
Thiessen,
Yes.
Dozel,
Yes.
Carvillo, Turco,
Yes.
Shapey,
Yes,
Gilner.
Yes. Okay, this will have to be before the full county board on the November 5th or 14th meeting at 6 p.m. Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the public hearings. Project status report. Any questions? Jody?
is it possible, on that rollout of the online permitting and inspection scheduling system, could any presentation be brought in front of the committee to see the functionality? Maybe also, I'd like to know what the cost is and then what it provides to the department and to the public. Maybe next meeting or the meeting after that.
Yeah, we can certainly do a presentation of the entire database or the whole system. I would recommend closer to like probably more like January. Once it's actually functional and working the way it's supposed to be working, and we all get used to it too.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, Register of Deeds report. Any questions? Directors Department update.
So actually what was just brought up with the permit tracking is about the only thing that's really newer going on right now as far as projects. We're in the process of working. The company is making workflows, so when a permit comes in, they create all the steps that we can do online to keep track of it and where it's at. Populating or creating all the forms that we would use for it. I did issue this month or excuse me, in October. 8 citations, 2 have been dismissed at this point. And we have court on the rest coming up here this month. And that's about it for department updates.
Jody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dustin, what are the breakdown of the citations, the 8?
And most of them are for salvage and like salvage yard, junkyard type stuff. There is one that is a septic violation that we've been working on for quite a while, or not quite a while, but ongoing. And actually most of the 5 of the citations that were for salvage and junkyards are repeat.
Okay, so 5 were for salvage yard, junkyard, 2 were closed already, settled, and 1 is for sanitation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, surveyors report. Any questions? Land information. Any questions? Jody.
I don't know if anyone else has been utilizing the updated land records website, maybe is what I would call it. It's not as user friendly. And I'm just wondering if Sam might be able to be present sometime, maybe go over the new changes for the land nav system and whatnot, not only for committee members that are using the system, but for perhaps the public that maybe would like to use the system and its new functionality.
Well, okay.
So
Yes,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
Okay, I just want to touch on that. So I know that there was a presentation that was given to, I believe it's committee the whole. I don't know if it was this, I'm picturing Sam did a presentation. So are you saying there have been some updates since then that you would like touched on or?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, thank
right.
you.
Okay. Financial report. Any questions? Permit report. Questions? Discuss and or act on Building Code Ordinance Chapter 166-5B and Zoning Administration Ordinance Chapter 391-10C1. Jody.
So I think based on last month, I think we're all aware that by reintroducing detached garages in the inspections, we would be further protecting public safety from potential building issues, structural, that really novices probably can't identify during the building process. We used to have detached garage inspections. They were removed a couple of years ago. And I'm not exactly sure that that was a well thought out idea. So there's that. And then if we're grouping the other one in there for the accessory structures for 150 or less, I know that Supervisor Turco mentioned hunting sheds. There's also chicken coops and whatnot. So I guess from my standpoint, I'd be interested in reintroducing detached garages back into the code. And I am fine with excluding accessory structures for that very reason. So that's my take.
Okay. How about the Zoning Administration Ordinance?
That's the accessory structures, Mr. Chair.
That's the portion that talks about the 150
Okay,
square feet.
so did we just cover both these ordinances? In one?
I guess I'd like to hear from others, and I don't know, I did notice that Joe Jackson was here. He's got building inspection credentials, so we can ask our questions of him too, I'm sure. And we used to have this, the detached garages in our inspections, so. Again, I think that was maybe a poor decision to remove them. So, thank you.
Okay, Phil McLaughlin has signed up to speak. 3 minutes. Microphone, 3 minutes.
Yes, that was in the ordinance. It existed before I ever worked here. It was a very wise decision that some smart people at this county made. They saw ahead and they did it. It's not mandated by the state, but as I pointed out probably last meeting, probably have taken a bit of a stab, but 80% of what the zoning department does is not mandated by the state. But somebody made the realization all these years back that this is a way to help protect the public in another way. Because right now, if you want to look at it this way, okay, the houses got to get inspected for snow loads, all this stuff. So we don't want you to get killed by your collapsing roof in your house. But if you're in your garage, we don't care. So that's a very simple, blunt way to put it. When you took that away, you took away the inspection to make sure all those things were correct. And yes, my opinion, I don't believe that the committee or the county board was given the full story on that when it happened. And I will for this time keep my further comments regarding that to myself. But no, it was a poor decision. You set the county back quite a ways by doing that. And I'm afraid there's gonna be more things in the future that are gonna do the same. They're gonna put the county backwards. And I've heard, when I worked here, I heard a lot of negative things about this county and about, the people that, they're negative things. I'm gonna tell you what, there was some people around here long before Phil that had good heads on their shoulders and saw ahead to do a lot of these things that were for the good of the people. And I had a passion for my department when the 20 years I was here. I believed in everything that we did. And I strove to do even more if there was a need or a good reason for it. And that seems to have all gone by the wayside. And I think it's a sad state for Adamstown.
Okay, is there any further discussion by committee members? Randy?
And I guess this is asking Jody, because she's the one that introduced this. We're talking safety, which I'm all for, not a problem. I realize we exempt the farmers because we can't control that, which would make me feel a lot better if we were gonna.
Microphone, please.
It would make me feel a lot better if we were gonna include everybody in these rules. But when we tried to get some short-term rental rules, we shot those down. We fought Dustin tooth and nail on, for example, barbecue grills 10 feet from the house. Some of us decided that wasn't a safety issue, that we're overstepping our bounds. Well, to me, that's a big safety rule, but we shot that down. Same with the camper, septic hookup or holding tank. I believe you fought strongly against that, felt it was overstepping our bounds. So I'm not sure why this is all of a sudden so important. And the other thing I'd like to say is, I really feel this should have went to discussion before we vote on it to the townships. Again, it goes to the townships to get voted on, so they should have some input on it, because they can opt in or out of this. And you may force some of them out. They may say, heck with you. Have you talked to any of the town chairs at all, Jody?
Is that it, Randy? Because,
Yep.
okay. The importance of it, why I find it important is the protection aspect from those that are novices that don't go into buildings and know even what to look for. They have no idea on the bracing, what goes into it, the truss strengths, there's so much that just the common person is not going to be aware of, that probably could use some extra guidance, protection, inspection expertise. So that is why I'm talking about that for importance. In terms of, what were the other, the septic? Truthfully, it's their land. The reason I had a problem with that is I'm not watching over their shoulders when they're doing their daily duties. And it's their land that they're actually polluting. So if that's what you're referring to, that's where my stance was. In terms of farm buildings versus residential buildings, that's state defined. So I don't think I can answer to that. Again, they're two different things. Ag seems to be excluded for their buildings. Township wise, I have had a few conversations. We didn't ask them when we took it out of the code. And so putting it back in, I'm on the fence on that because quite honestly, they didn't have any input on the exclusion. And we're just adding it back in when pretty much, I'm pretty sure all of the towns that fall under county planning and zoning, we're already fine with it in. I don't think, maybe Dustin could answer to this, but I don't think the towns were asked when we took it out. So that's where I am on that. Did I answer your questions on where I stand?
Pretty much, other than, the short-term rental rules.
Oh, the
safety.
short term. Okay, yes. Barbecues. So the reason I was not in favor of telling people where to put their barbecues is because the owner is probably going to be moving their barbecue back in when they take up their residence again at their rental. And then they'll move it back out for the other people to use. So really, it's not about what we're telling them to do or not do. And I would assume if you don't have that sucker padlocked on some kind of exterior location, the renter will probably bring it in too. There's no one that's going to be available during the weekends to say, hey, this guy, he moved his barbecue back onto his porch. Also, in the end, it's the insurance that is either going to say yay or nay on that and pay the bill if the place burns down. So that's where I am on that. And I don't know if there was anything else.
Okay, is there any further discussion from the committee members on this agenda item?
Rocky, this is
Yes.
John.
Yes.
So, I guess, we've heard one side of it. And I'm not sure if Dustin has an opinion or knowledge about, why it was removed, that maybe he could share, insight. I'm not sure if Dustin was even enrolled when that happened, but is there any insight from the director?
Yes, I can answer that. So when this was originally taken out approximately 2 years ago, one of the reasons that I did explain to this committee is that it is not required by the state. I had concerns about the extensiveness of our inspections. The ordinance that was in there specifically said it is exempt from the ordinance except in terms of wind and snow load. However, historically in the department, we were also doing other types of inspections along with wind and snow load. I did have some concerns about that. The amount of time that that is devoted to garages, both by office staff and doing inspections, I did also feel was better suited going out elsewhere. Whether it is zoning violations, being able to spend more time on other inspections. If you look at our calendar over the last couple of years, it's still, even without those garage inspections, it's extremely packed on there. that was the majority of it. Also speaking with other county officials, there's not a ton of, it's quite the spectrum of what they inspect throughout the state as far as different types of things. So there's the minimum of the code is basically new houses and additions built on houses that were built after 1980. So if you have a house from the 60s or whatever, and you want to put an addition on that, the state building code doesn't require that. Now we are still doing that. All houses, anything to do with the house, we are requiring building permits for, or building inspections for. But there are communities out there that's the minimum. They do the absolute minimum. Others do similar to us, any type of house, and not do accessory structures. And then there are some that do accessory structures.
And
So
one follow-up question, Dustin. So in a situation like this, if this ordinance was to be reenacted, any current structure is grandfathered in and not required unless it's updated further, or how does that work?
so the structure,
Hey, John, can you hear us now?
I can hear you guys now. You cut off when Dustin started answering about whether things would be grandfathered. And you're gone again.
Yeah, you're not signed up to speak.
I can hear you. You came in for a second, then you cut back out.
John, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, sounds like you might be back now.
But it's coming through your speed.
John, can you hear?
Yep. Yes. No.
Hear us, we can't hear you.
Okay, you're back now.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this topic?
So
Joe?
I missed Dustin's response on the grandfathering. I apologize. Is there?
Go ahead, Dusty.
So the permits that were issued after the ordinance was changed, approximately 2 years worth of permits or garages that were built under permits, it would not go retroactive to those. They would be as they are, as they were built.
All right. And then one last question. Dustin, is this something that could be offered by the county for a fee versus making it an ordinance? So if there was a citizen who felt like they didn't know what they were buying and wanted to make sure that it was safe, that you could pay the normal fees and things along those lines, and the inspector might be able to tell them whether their structure is safe or not.
Anything like that currently, they would be able to potentially. There are firms out there that would do things like that with between architects and engineers. They would be able to do something along those lines. I guess if the committee did direct me to do that.
Are there other things maybe that we're not thinking of that would make that a bad idea? Or that I'm not thinking of that would make that a bad idea? I'm losing you guys again. I apologize.
Okay, Judy?
So just with Supervisor Dolzell's question, I think if we look at inspections in general and stand back from it, there are different stages of a building. So once you get to the end, I think it would be very difficult, maybe not impossible, but very difficult to look at the beginning stages of, say, a detached garage. So if they're covering up walls or, putting some kind of inner loft area in, that would be a concern, I think. I could be wrong. The other thing I think you missed, Supervisor Provolio's statement, so Supervisor Carvalho might want to restate what he had to say. And then third of all, it was asked if any, since the, code was removed till now, if anything was noticed for, problems, right, Bruce? And, Joe Jackson is here. During your inspections, Joe, do you ever see any problems with other structures as you're going through?
If I go to a garage, do electric service. I walk in the garage and I do the electric service. But we have violations in the wiring. garage. I've been notified, not doing. So I'm only inspecting if there was problems with the framing that I have to know. I think the situation. I'd raise my hand about as far as the inspection. At a final, you don't want to get into that. If you had, say, electrical, they wanted it inspected and stuff. What happens if they put insulation? Can't see the wire, the drywall, can't see the wire. This happens. It happens at times, little houses, you end up like. So, you know, leaving it up to them to have someone come in later. They're not seeing. They put a ceiling in that in. Did they put truss bracing? You know, it's all covered up. Don't want to have big stuff.
Thank you. Any more discussion on this?
And Supervisor Carvalho, repeat what he said so that Supervisor Dillasall is aware of it.
Would you like to repeat your comments?
So what I was basically saying is, it is a big safety issue, for the owner, for the firefighters that may be responding there for a fire. For the homeowner, it provides security for them to know that the building that they just paid $10,000 for was built appropriately, correct, maintain the snow load. For the safety of the firefighters, that when we're going up there to do some type of ventilation, we're not gonna fall through the roof, hopefully. We are carrying approximately 75 pounds of gear with us. So to me, it's an important feature that we inspect these structures to make sure that they're structurally sound and that the electrical installation is done according to code.
Great. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Jay?
I have to say that I agree with Mr. Thiessen on this. I definitely appreciate the direction that they went on this. I'm for less oversight on my individual property. So if I want to build a shed to house my automobile, I don't feel as though the county should come in and inspect my shed or my garage that I'm parking my vehicle in. Mr. Nackreiner brought up a good point. It was the same point that I brought out. How many catastrophic failures have we seen in Adams County? For anyone that's built their own garage, most people that are going to build their own garage are going to go to a lumber yard. They're going to ask the person at the lumber yard about certain aspects of building that project. You're basically taking away property rights of people. A house is an entirely different thing. And so I'm definitely be on the side of Mr. Thiessen's comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
By the way, add, as you say, taking away property rights and adding more tax.
Okay, anybody else? Jody?
adding another tax or just another restriction or inspection or?
Comments to me, Jody.
I'm sorry.
Comments.
So did you hear my comment?
Yes, I heard you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I get an answer to that from Mr. Knockreiner? What his statement was in regarding to tax?
He has one.
When I say tax, it's just another permit fee that property owner has to pay. And I think they pay enough of it.
Okay. Moving on. Next item is the next meeting date and time. There seems to be a lot of controversy. I've got my own comments. Talking about item 19.
We're not, actually, it says discuss and or act.
Well, you didn't act.
Are we past the discussion stage?
Yeah.
Okay, in terms of act, I'd like to make a motion to reintroduce detached garage inspections into the code.
It has been a motion made to reintroduce. And we have a second on that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Thiessen,
No.
Dozel,
Yes.
Are you voting, John? Okay, yes.
Yes.
Carvillo,
Yes.
Churko,
No.
Chapey, yes, Gilner,
No.
Knockreiner.
Okay, 4-0, motion fails. Moving on. A lot of controversy about the meeting, date and time. My comments are, we're, having a meeting at 6 p.m. We've got 4 county employees, plus the security it takes to keep the door open. They're working outside of their normal work hours. We have to take them into consideration too. Driving safety after dark in deer season. I drive 30 miles, Jay does too. I'd like to be able to see the deer farther out during the day. We're talking winter hours. And we've also checked around the state, and most counties have all of their committee meetings during normal work hours. So we have 3 people signed up to speak. John?
I'd like to see it at 6 o'clock at night. People can show.
Okay, Ray Shapey?
Mr. Chair, I would really appreciate it at the 6 o'clock time. I just purely because I find it very difficult to make everything.
Okay. Patty?
Yes, also the 6 o'clock, no matter where you go in this county, you're 30 miles away. The deer, yeah, they're out all the time. We're always watching for deer, so I do sympathize with the ones that have to drive further when it's dark, but we're always driving further. And the 6 o'clock meeting is definitely.
Okay. At this time, I'll say the next meeting will be December 6th at 3 p.m. Jody?
Mr. Chair, I would like for you to reconsider, maybe make a motion. Or
You can make a motion. I'm not.
I will make a motion for the next meeting time to be at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Based on the feedback from the public and not just our own comfort.
Okay, motion's been made to have the next meeting at 6 p.m. Don seconds. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dozel,
Yes.
Carvillo,
Yes.
Churko,
No.
Chapey, yes, Gilner,
No.
Knockreiner, Thiessen.
No.
Okay, next meeting will be at 3 p.m., December 6th. And we have a resolution sheet to sign before you leave. Meeting adjourned.